Thank you so much, my love. Welcome to the panel. I am going to let everybody introduce themselves. Mr. Ricky.
Let me introduce myself.
That's right.
Ho! H to the O.
My name is Ricky. I'm the founder of Highsman, and I'm here to talk about emerging markets.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ari.
Hey, thank you. Ari Raptis, owner of Talaria. We are the invisible infrastructure of the industry, helping product move from the cultivator to the dispensary, from a B2B service, whether it's 2PL, where we move it from one spot to the other, or we'll actually handle the fulfillment and warehouse the product as well.
Fantastic. And we have Mr. Cedric.
I am Cedric Sabalos, former NBA All-Star, 11 years. I own a dispensary in Noble, Oklahoma. Super bad, go there. It's the only building in Oklahoma that still has a smoking license, so you can smoke weed, cigarettes, cigars, anything you want in there. So we're about 2 miles away from University of Omaha, Oklahoma, the Sooners. So if you guys ever go visit them or watch the game there, come by and hang out with us.
Yes. You guys, this panel of gentlemen is absolutely amazing. We have NBA All-Star. We have a 40 under 40, absolutely amazing. And an NFL All-Star.
It's called All Pros.
All pro.
All pros. All pros. I know. I'm so bad with names. Just amazing people, and the things that they've done for this industry are just absolutely wonderful. So, absolutely amazing. What market opportunities do you see emerging?
Okay, so this is where I get to talk a little philosophically.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love this.
Well, I mean, the obvious answer to the question are the new markets.
Right.
New markets coming online. Like I was talking to someone today from Kentucky, and Kentucky just opened up medicinally and officially next month. And so it's interesting for me talking to people in these new markets, and a lot of them have traveled around and been in more mature markets, and now they're coming back to these new markets and bringing the knowledge of what they know to these markets. So I think it's a great opportunity for brands because it's interesting. Like a new market is new, but if you, like I said, if you've been studying everything else, you can bring that wisdom, that knowledge, that information into the new emerging markets, and they get to start further ahead of markets that have been
Right.
around for a little while.
Very good point. I'd like that.
Yeah, and just echoing that, I mean, we've seen a big push on the East Coast, and it's been an East Coast emerging market over the past 3 to 4 years. Whether it's new states like Ricky mentioned, Kentucky, or states that go from medical to recreational, and I would consider that an emerging market as well, because you're adding additional license types. More brands are coming into the states, allowing more cannabis to kind of circulate throughout the country.
Right.
But we do see a big East Coast focus emerging markets that allow new license types to come in, whether it's a medical direct or a new state like Ricky mentioned, Kentucky.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Very good points.
I'm waiting for the market in Oklahoma to go recreational. I've been trying to vote for it for the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
It is medical now, but I think first thing, everybody should be recreational.
Yes.
Let me just throw that out there. But the most important thing is that is we get people informed. A lot of people really don't know what they're voting for or voting against, and
Right.
and that's what we really try to been pushing in Oklahoma for the last 3 years, just letting people know. Because sometimes when you go and get in that room and you vote, you don't know what you're voting for. You just kind of mark. I wish they had a system where like, okay, don't vote at all, because sometimes that might help us out, in certain situations. But
Right.
I would never encourage people not to vote, but just get a little bit more educated on what. So I think once more people get educated and vote their cities or their country, or their states in, that will just blow the market up even more, because obviously it will be more accessible to everybody.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. One thing I want to add to that, this idea of emerging markets, medical markets going direct, is that it's a really good point, because at least what I've seen on the East Coast, right? The East Coast, I see they're doing a really good job of, as they move to recreational, that they're still taking care of the medical patients. But
Right.
in California, it's almost as soon as it went recreational, it's like they forgot about all the medical patients.
I agree with you. We're starting to see that in Arizona as well, as you know.
Yeah, but also the thing about emerging markets is that it's new populations of people that are getting greater access to cannabis. And we're one country, but it's the United States of America. And anyone who's traveled around the country, you see that Americans are different depending on where you are.
Right.
And so what's fascinating to me about these emerging markets is you're seeing, people in the Rust Belt, sometimes people in the South, people in the Northwest, people in the Northeast, and they're all having greater access to cannabis. And, as a brand, I get to do tours in each of these different markets, and it's fascinating to see how alike they are, but in all the ways how they're so different and how cannabis consumers are so different around the country.
Well, that's exactly it. And I think one big aspect in these emerging markets is how do you preserve the brand? How do you preserve the brand as new state legislation comes out? As you mentioned, California forgot about that medical program, the brands that were established in the beginning and that were nurtured into the rec market. And what we see on the East Coast is that the new state legislation that has come out helped preserve the medical market brands to make it turn into that rec market and actually allow it to grow.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge point of emerging markets is how does each state allow that legislation, change the legislation to make sure they protect the investment that everyone has made in that medical side of the business, because that's the first step into the door.
Right.
Is the medical market in any state.
Right.
And then it turns into the rec side. But that investment, how do you protect that investment in the beginning? The brands that you create, and how do you protect that down the line is through proper state legislation.
Yes.
Yeah. I have homes in Dallas, Los Angeles, and Phoenix, and they're all different. I remember when Oregon, a lot of dispensaries out there used to have a problem. They say we were stuffing cash in our bedroom walls and stuff, because it was so in demand. It seems like when I go home to LA, they want you cash the whole time. And then when we hit Arizona, it's a little different. They don't mind the card. They don't really tax you as much as a card. I think financially, as we talk about the market, financially is big importance because, you get a tremendous discount in California. Obviously, it hasn't hit Dallas yet, but you get a tremendous discount for using cash in California for some reason. And I think financially, as well as that market, needs to be taken care of too.
I agree with you.
And you mentioned cash and stuffing the cash into the mattresses. What we've created over the past 5-6 years is a sister company to Talaria called National Secure Transport. So we're a cash and transit company in about 30 states, moving about $2.5 billion in cash, all tailored around cannabis.
Right.
So we work in between the financial institution and the dispensaries to get the money into the banking system, where we then respectfully work with the financial institution to get the money into the Federal Reserve. So we work with all the MSOs and all the single state operators to get the money into the market, and that's how we were able to kind of create that invisible infrastructure in the industry as emerging markets were coming on.
So I'm curious, what's your take on what we saw happen in Florida the past month or so?
My finger was on the button wishing Florida passed. A lot of our MSO customers were heavily invested into Florida. We're heavily invested into Florida.
Right.
Our goal is for one of the largest states in the country, right after California, from a cannabis program, to turn rec. And hopefully next year that happens, but one day they'll vote right.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to see, because I'm sure it's happened in history, but where what people do in the legislature and how people vote has so much impact on which markets open, which markets don't. And I think of the difference between the Florida market next year, if it would have passed, and what it's going to be now, it's mind-boggling.
Right.
And not only that, as we speak to emerging markets, even if it passed this year, you wouldn't have seen a recreational dispensary license for another 2 years. By the time they came out with the licenses, by the time the dispensaries opened up or the new cultivators came online,
all the guidelines are agreed upon.
We're just delaying it 2-3 years down the line. So as an emerging market comes on, as they pass that new legislation, it's still a 2-3 year process till you see any type of fruition from that rec bill passing. So our goal is that we need to start voting right and make sure that we vote to add recreational into certain states. Yeah. And then eventually it'll turn to federal legalization. So that's our goal.
It's not me. You want a mic?
No, I thought you were trying to say something.
Oh no.
So I'm curious, Ed, like what what motivated you to get into the space?
Well, I can go back to, excuse me. Let me go back to my first experience. I just told the story over there. It's 5 people in this universe that's ever walked this universe that you would want to experience smoking with. You know, Bob Marley, obviously he's not here anymore. Cheech and Chong, Willie Nelson, and Snoop. And Snoop just happened to, we were at the Comedy Store in LA, and he pulled up, and I just was talking to him, and the cop asked him to move, and he said, jump in while I make a U-turn, and he passed it to me. And at that moment, I knew I was in a moment in my life where I'm like, I got a chance to smoke with one of the big 5. Like, so I did it. And at that time, I didn't know what I was doing, obviously. But then later on, young ladies educated me on how to inhale and how to smoke and really the benefits of it. It's funny because Grant Hill, Hall of Famer, Olympian, Mr. Everything, he came to me when I was in the front office with the Phoenix Suns, and he's like, what made you decide on retiring? I said, to be honest with you, after games, and we have back-to-back games sometimes, I would be up till 5 in the morning because I couldn't bring it down. I couldn't bring the adrenaline from the game down. I couldn't bring the pain down. I could not bring it down. So I knew, how can I get out of playing the next day? Like I can't figure it out. So I wouldn't trigger until I actually ran out the tunnel and smelled the popcorn. That's adrenaline picking me back up. So I had to figure out how can I get that back? And at that time, it was frowned upon to smoke marijuana in the league and anything. They weren't testing for it, but they just was like, you know, we smell you getting out of the car and that type of thing. So then, after being out of the league for a while and knowing how to partake, I just found it just phenomenal. And I was like, man, if this was allowed when I was playing, you know, it would just enhance things. Now everybody complains that the superstars only play 60 games out of 82 and this, that, and the other. This, you know, if they implement this in the NBA, it just would be so much better. You know, not only, I mean, people don't have to even smoke it, just creams and, you know, putting it on their source. I broke a foot teaching kids, and I opted out of surgery because I'm 55. I didn't want to have surgery, you know. Certain things you can explain, like, well, why you? I didn't want to explain that. So I went to a blood tender and was like, yo, I got pain right here, but I don't want to be numb the rest of the whole body.
Right.
Like, oh, here, take this, and it went right to the foot. And I was like, this is unbelievable. So that's what really got me involved. Obviously, I got the dispensary because I wanted to jump on because I missed the plane. I missed the boat, so to speak. In Phoenix, when Phoenix came recreational, everybody jumped on and getting their distribution license and everything. So I started looking in the outer cities, and I saw it was medical one available in Oklahoma, and that's when I jumped on it, thinking that we can encourage people and vote to try to go recreational. So that's how I got involved, Rick.
Yeah, there's another piece here about emerging markets because I feel like as a brand, because we have a little bit of fame, is that we have access to people that are not in the space already, and that we can actually bring new people into the dispensary. And I think that's another way to look at an emerging market is if people could really, if athletes or people that did anything physically strenuous could appreciate the benefits of this plant, right? It creates a market. It creates a market for cannabis.
Yeah, and you mentioned appreciation of the plant and the medical side of it, and you mentioned.
You want this one?
Let me sit down.
You mentioned the appreciation of the plant and the medical side and the benefit of that and rubbing it on your knees when you had that rough game. How about the medical side of it when a little kid has a seizure 60 times in a day when he takes a tincture?
Yeah.
We transfer for an amazing, we work with a couple of amazing brands, and GTI has an amazing tincture where when you drop that into the kid's mouth, he goes from having 60 seizures a day to 1.
Wow.
That life-changing aspect to be able to offer that to a young kid is why we do it. And and the reason why we got started in 2018 in Pennsylvania and wanted to stick our own flag in the ground. I'm a classic entrepreneur to heart. And we created a company. We created a website. We had an idea of transporting product from the cultivator to the dispensary when it first finally legalized in Pennsylvania. There was only 13 potential customers, and as an entrepreneur back then, I went and knocked on all 13 doors.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, you have your highs and lows, but we had a lot of lows in the beginning. all first 12 doors said no. We got to the 13th last one. They finally said yes. And from there, we expanded to 30 states with 3 different companies.
That's awesome.
One for moving product, one for moving cash. And we also have a home delivery business that's based out of Utah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So new market opens, you guys find out all the compliance and kind of find out where you fit in and what you can do.
That's exactly it. So we're that invisible infrastructure that works kind of behind the scenes. We're not the brand. We're not we're not selling at the dispensary. We're not the cultivator, but we work with everyone behind the scenes, from the cultivator to the dispensary to the bank to the labs, just to get the product around. And as you mentioned, emerging markets, every state has different legislation. Some allow home delivery. Some allow product fulfillment where we can actually warehouse the product. And between those, we have to navigate those different compliance and legislations. We have a whole back-end team, a team that just is dedicated to compliance and legislation to help make sure that we're always on the cutting edge when that new emerging market comes about.
Do you have any ideal legislation for what you got that would help take your business to the next level?
Give them the mic.
Yeah, I was saying, do you have any ideal legislation that would take your business to the next level?
Yeah, so one big aspect is that we want to see the cannabis industry follow the same trajectory as any normal industry. Whether it's pharmaceuticals, where you have a distributor model and you're able to then do marketing, you can sell it, or even the liquor or the beer industry, where you can actually properly market, right? Yeah. That is where we see the transition happening in the next 10 years, is how does those transitions happen in certain states? And how does one state go from medical to rec? And how does those states then fall into that kind of new legislation?
Absolutely. You have any last?
No, I just wanted to express my feelings on more venues to partake.
Yes.
Because like I said, we have the last license in Oklahoma to smoke in, but I guess I smoke cigars too, and they have the convention in this building, and they hand out cigars, and we smoke right here, right now. We should be able to do that here. We should be able to do that. I mean, I understand they have like designated area over there outside. That's good. But even more nightclubs, even more restaurants, even more libraries, even more, all kind of places, internet hubs where you can, partake and be free about it.
Libraries, I know, I like that.
Even concerts, so I've been to a lot of concerts that are outdoors and they allow you to, but indoor as well. I mean, I know we can get around that some way, somehow. And it'll take education and people's,
you're right.
Being more familiar with it.
Yes.
I would definitely read more. If I could smoke in the library.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I would go.
100%.
How do we encourage the kids to get back into the library?
Exactly. How do we get the kids back in the library?
How do we
Tell them they can
encourage
smoke.
Yeah, there you go.
When they walk in, you just give them a little bit. Here, you're gonna. I promise you. When I was in school, I went back to school after I retired, and I remember sitting and reading, and studying, and I was like, oh, this is so boring. Then I'd smoke a little bit, and I'd keep reading, and I'd be done. And I'd be like, what else can I read? Can I write? Can I write something about this?
Right.
So hey, it might bring kids back to the books. Get them off those devices.
Yeah.
Oh, this was fun.
Oh, yeah, this was fun.
Yeah,
Do you have a last comment?
Just the last comment. As emerging markets come around and as new states pass legislation, we just have to make sure we vote right. Like Florida didn't pass, but we have to keep on trying that fight, keep on pushing that legislation for medical states to turn rec, to start pushing that agenda of that national legalization.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much. This was so much fun, and I appreciate you. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.